Welcome once again to Breakfast Central. The South African government has addressed speculation surrounding a recent visit by the President of the United Arab Emirates to the country's poorest province. UAE President and ruler of Abu Dhabi, Sheikh Mohammed bin Zayed Al Nahyan, and a large entourage of 500 people visited the Eastern Cape province 2 weeks ago, causing a stir when they landed their private planes at the Bulembu Airport in Bisho, a military base decommissioned in the 1990s.
Now, Nahyan paid for upgrades to the airport amounting to $1 million so that he could have easy access to his privately owned game reserve for a quiet holiday to mark the end of the Muslim holy month of Ramadan. The visit received a negative reaction from South Africans who accused the government of enabling another Gupta Gate. But this week, the government insisted that all processes were followed when the UAE President's plane landed. Well, joining us now to discuss this further is the international relations expert from the University of Northwest, Professor Jan Venter. Thank you, Professor Jan, for joining us.
Good morning, guys.
Good
Thank
morning.
you for having me.
It's a pleasure. Now, Professor Jan, Nahyan's visit has caused an uproar among South Africans, and they are referring to the Gupta Gate, and I believe that that's what happened a few years ago when number one, like they call him, Jacob Zuma, allowed one of his friends to land a private airplane on a military base because they wanted to visit or attend a wedding. And, a lot of people were saying that was an insult to the military, and we're seeing that happen again. So what do you make of this controversy that surrounds the UAE's president's visit to South Africa?
Well, I think that the problem is money was exchanged in lieu of the privilege to land the private plane. So immediately you get the idea that South Africa is open for business, and not in a good way. So South Africa is presenting the picture of a soft state with porous borders. If you have 20 million to upgrade landing zone for yourself, you are welcome to do business with a regional government or with the ANC. And that is not the picture of a state taking care of itself. It's more the picture of corruption. And that's the problem. The whole idea of do no evil, and especially do not present the idea that you are doing evil. And I think that South Africa shot itself in the foot for 20 million US rand, 1 million US dollars, and it's another foreign policy blunder by the South African government, unfortunately.
Well, very, very interesting. And of course, it continues to add to the controversy surrounding the Cyril Ramaphosa government. Now, of course, in addition to the arrival of the president, there was also some controversy around how the entourage's visas were processed. The South African government has gone through extra lengths to explain their procedures. Do you think there's also more to all of this going on? We've also seen lately there's been some level of political alignments and military alignments by the South African government. Is this, something that we may not be aware of, with regards this particular relationship with the UAE?
I think that South Africa is actually quite desperate to gain partners of repute in the international environment, especially in the Middle East, especially amongst the oil-producing nations or thereabouts. And I think that we are perhaps falling over our own feet to get those relations going. I don't think that the government sees this situation as something that they won't do for anybody else. And that's the problem. with the visit of Putin coming up, perhaps they will do something special for him as well. And the question is, for whom else will the South African government not maybe make special arrangements? I think that the government has made it clear that the diplomatic and systematic clearances for all the people was done according to rules, but you have the feeling that there is a special dispensation for certain people, that not all people are treated equally, and that is not that does not make sense in the democratic environment that South Africa proposes, where all people are equal. Now it looks like some people are more equal than others. And I think that is very difficult. South Africa is creating difficulty for itself in the international environment as well.
Okay. I mean, now let's assume that, there was no controversy surrounding the arrival of Nahyan and the 50 persons he was flanked by, and also given that the processes were followed. Is it safe to assume that this visit is an opportunity to generate revenue and also create jobs for a province that especially has a very high unemployment rate?
I think it is an opportunity for the province to showcase itself, but on a limited scale. The emir that came here already knows the province. He owns a game farm here. So the 500 guests that he brought here will be taken to his game farm. I don't think that it will be a job creation or an opportunity for South African people. He brought his own people. He brought his own helicopter. He brought his own ambulance. So how much of an opportunity can that be for South African people? Maybe the investment that he made was something that South Africa can be glad for. But I'm highly critical of the whole process where somebody can spend money and then receive a special dispensation just because he or she is head of government. We are a democratic country, and that means that everybody must be treated the same. We've got the Constitution and the Bill of Rights, and everybody must fall under that Bill of Rights. And there are ways and channels for creating jobs and for creating opportunities for people. I think maybe the world is now more curious about the Eastern province, but limited opportunities. I think that this is unfortunate. Another case where the foreign policy of South Africa failed the country.
How would you respond to people who say, well, first of all, the UAE would not allow South Africa to build, its own runway or fix its own runway in the UAE, but those who also say that the president of the UAE has diplomatic immunity, so he doesn't necessarily need to go through customs and immigration and some of all of that. What would your response be to that?
Well, I think that the 500 people that he brought with him surely would have to go through processes. And I am actually protesting the president that is created. So who will the next person be that is granted special privileges? And how does this special privileges that is extended to the president of the UAE, How does that look to the world? Does it present South Africa as a strong country, looking out for its people? Or is it a country that is available for 1 million US dollars? Then you can land wherever you want. You can land your airplane wherever you want.
I mean, speaking of how this presents the people and the country in general, do you think that these actions and, you know, this criticism that arose because of what happened will torpedo the diplomatic ties? I mean, that's like the major reason why the visit even happened in the first place. So do you think that these criticisms surrounding it will actually affect the diplomatic relationships?
No, I don't think it will affect the diplomatic relationship. I think that the elites, the governments, have their own way of communicating, have their own level of communication. I think that they will perhaps be more circumspect in the future, but I don't think that there's any harm done to the diplomatic relationship between South Africa and the UAE.
All right, and you know, what would you say? Of course, President Cyril Ramaphosa, if he has to respond, you know, what would you say his response should be to those who criticize, you know, some of all of this? And of course, you know, you may also want to chip in. You know, I think I mentioned this earlier. The whole, you know, political alignments, you know, that seem to be changing across the world. You know, the BRICS arrangement that South Africa is getting, you know, itself involved with, and some of all of that. So, what would President Ramaphosa's argument be?
Yeah, I think President Ramaphosa's argument would be that he is busy with the realignment of South Africa's core diplomatic relationships. And I think that he should continue with that. And I think that relationships in Africa and the Middle East is very important for South Africa. I think we should absolutely continue that and strengthen that. But it should not be done in such a way that it seems that we are granting people privileges and that some people might have more privileges than other people, especially if they are willing to spend money in South Africa.
All right, international relations expert from the University of Northwest, Professor Jan Venter. Thank you so much for your time with us.
Thank you, guys. I appreciate it.
It's a pleasure.